Ladies and gentlemen, we're listening to Adetola Ogunlewe. Dr. Adetola, I want to say, y'all, Tola Ogunlewe, he has a background in sports, playing at a high level, and then he's also a practicing attorney. Now,
Yeah.
Coach, tell us about your practice and what it is that you do and how you got into sports law.
Well, basically, the way that, just like I said a little earlier, I'd always wanted to play sports, but one of the conditions that I had in order to fully go down that route was to go to school. So that was a non-negotiable part of it for my parents. So they said, look, you go to school. Mastery podcast. So I was like, sports mastery, what is it about? And then I just started listening back. So it was just a search, basically.
Yes.
That was it. So I just searched you on the iTunes platform, found it, listened to a couple of episodes, loved it. Then I just binge listened, man, to the rest.
Yeah, so you were explaining that you got into it looks like you played sports in school and then in college,
Yeah.
and you went into practicing or studying law.
Yeah, exactly. My story is a funny one. It's a funny one. So basically, the normal story, you grow up playing, you're very good at it. Then it now comes down to having a plan, which is why I resonated with your message a lot, in terms of the kind of guidance you're trying to give the young athletes, especially on the coaching calls, where you're asking the guys to read out things and all that. Over on this side of the pond, we don't have that at all. So basically, everyone is left to fend for themselves. So you have this athlete who is good. He just believes he's good. And because he's good, he's going to get to wherever level he's supposed to get to. There's no mental approach. There's no physical approach. There's no plan that, okay, this is what I'm going to do now. This is what I'm going to do next. So that was the kind of category that I fell into as well. Played in college, played in university as well. The plan was that once I was done with university, then I could then take this thing seriously. I could go full on, trying to get clubs, trials, all of those things. Unfortunately, about 2 months before graduation, I tore my ACL. Then again, because of that lack of knowledge, I didn't realize it was an ACL that was torn. I thought it was just your normal knee sprain. After you rested a little bit, it will be fine. So I actually missed law school because of the plan that I had. So I was like, no, I'm not going to law school. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go get trials and all of that. So I flew to London. I'd set up a trial with a club. So
Okay.
I flew to London for that trial. And that was when my knee gave way. So I then had to see a proper physio who then said, look, your knee is really messed up. When did you have this injury? And I was like, I injured it maybe like 6 months ago. And they were like, wow. So I had all this debris in my knee because of the bone bruising, because the ACL is not there. So it further damaged it. Then I had to get surgery and all of that. So while I was doing rehab, I then had to go to law school to qualify as a lawyer. So now I do sports law. And then I wanted to find a way to give back to the young athletes on this side. And I say, hey, look, man, let's get you proper guidance. These are the things that you should know. This is how you should approach it, and stuff like that. So that's in a nugget, kind of like my story.
Yes, I think it's really beautiful, man, because, I played sports coming up, and I played football in college, football in high school, a little bit of professional.
That's American football, right?
Yes, American football.
American football, yeah.
And I played on a few different professional indoor football teams. But when you're younger, you never envision that. You envision playing at the highest level.
True.
And when things don't go your way, if you didn't have like a leader, or if you didn't have a guide or someone that could show you the way that had actually been there before, it could actually be disorienting when you're making the transition to the real world. So one of the things that you had discussed earlier, I wanted to get to where I can help athletes through these social dynamics as far as, preparing for the future, how to act on and off the field, how to act and be in your community, and at the same time, how to deal with difficult coaches, because that can be a fact. But when you have a goal set, you have to learn how to maneuver with different behaviors and then understand human nature.
Of course.
So
I think that's what I love. That's what I love most, listening to you coaching the guys. So you have these young guys who need that guidance. Now, not everyone is going to become an athlete, but the decisions that they make at this point in time is actually what is key. You get, it determines what they do next, the direction that they go, then kind of like their mental attitude going forward. Because for a while, after I came back to start practicing law after my surgery, and I knew that, hey, look, this soccer thing is not going to work out. There were times where, I would just be upset and angry. Yeah, because I felt like if only I knew better, because it wasn't a case of not having the resources. It wasn't a case of not having the connection. It wasn't a case of not having the resources to really take it the full way in terms of traveling. I even planned to come to the US at some point for trials. Yeah, so that was not the problem. It was just a lack of proper guidance and knowing what to do at each time. So which is why I appreciate your message, you trying to coach the boys, trying to guide them, how you doing in class, stuff like that. Great job.
Yes, it all adds up, and you do have to have a plan. And then sometimes you have plans within plans, because just like you said, exactly, you're planning for the physical standpoint. So you're planning your year-round training, whether you have preseason training, in-season training, off-season training with your team, club, or organization. Then you have like the skill development. You have the strength training. You have your team training. So it becomes very, very difficult. You start as a young athlete behaving as a professional. You're just not getting paid for it. So we talk big, like, from there, you still have the life in the classroom. So that has to be handled too, because over here to get to college, we have to go through, and I'm sure you have them in Nigeria, the entrance exams into the school. So we have to prepare for that. And that can be just as difficult as training. I try to tell kids and parents to take those entrance exams like 3 or 4 times. Each time it's just practice.
Yeah, exactly. I think I saw one of those episodes where it was taking the mock exam.
That's correct. So we try to treat school and the sports with an equal balance as far as the energy that we put into both of them.
Exactly. I love that, because over here, another thing that even makes it more difficult over here is that, for example, in the US, you have a system that caters or gives you the ability to combine education and sports. For us on this side, you don't have that. So it's so difficult. Like, for example, there was, just like you have the NCAA, we have little university tournaments over here that you can participate in. So my university was participating in one of the tournaments, but when we were supposed to have the tournament, I had my exams in school. So I had to choose, do I forfeit the semester and go play in the competition, which was in another state completely, or do I face my exams? So here it's usually more difficult for the athletes to decide how to combine it. So if they don't have proper guidance, they always leave one behind. So in terms of, they either abandon the sport completely and then focus on the education, or they focus on the sports completely, abandon the education, then their grades suffer. So just trying to give them that kind of perspective and say, hey, look, yes, the system doesn't allow you to do that, but you as the athlete can take it upon yourself to do better, to do more, in terms of taking control of your destiny, so to speak. And that's what I loved about what you were doing. And I found that similarity in what I was trying to do as well. And that's why I said, hey, look, let me send you an email. You might not respond, but let's just see how it goes.
No, I really appreciate it, man. I really appreciate you listening and sharing my material. It's interesting because it sounds like what you're telling me, that there's no concept or such thing as a student athlete in Nigeria.
Exactly.
You're going to be a student or you're going to be an athlete.
Exactly.
And the interesting part about that is, if you choose to be an athlete, you haven't built yourself up to be well-rounded to make the next step after that. If you blow out your knee, or eventually the crowd's going to go away, you have to stop playing at some point.
Exactly.
So then on the flip side of that is, if you just go the athletic route, maybe you don't learn and understand fitness and how that applies to life, and how you can take the things that you learn in team sports to the boardroom or to starting your own company or venture.
Exactly. You have it spot on, because I give the same example myself. I said, look, if I wasn't privileged, so to speak, or if I didn't have resources, or if I didn't have parents and family members that were guiding me the right way, when I blow up my knee, if I had gone all in for that, I would have been left blindsided. So I would have had to start the process of school all over again, as opposed to me being in final year, almost graduating, and then busting my knee. So that's an example I give. And I said, hey, look, it's not necessarily about you not going full on, but what are your options? How are you equipping yourself the right way to have the right tools to deal with life? Because, I mean, there's more to this thing than just being an athlete and playing sports and all of that.
I can see how your situation could be quite difficult, because you would a young person would need somebody like you in their corner, because there might be a situation where a particular individual, it might be better off going to school. Yeah. So there has to be a gentleman, or there has to be women like you, or women, if they're professional athletes or they aspire to play at a higher level, where you have somebody that can be objective about the athlete's skill and talents, and not have them waste their time, or to figure out a way to fulfill their wants and needs athletically and academically with balance.
True. Perfect. Yeah. Very valid point, because it's actually important. And that's the first thing that I always tell young guys. I say, look, everyone starts out with this dream. They start out with this thing that they want to do. But the truth is, not everyone is going to be an athlete. So the minute that you realize that, and you realize that, look, there are other things involved, that you can focus on, that you should focus on, then it kind of gives you like a rounded perspective of what they should be focusing on. And that's what I try to do. I say, hey, look, okay, let me see you play, send me your tapes, or whatever it is that you do. And then when I see that, I can then say, hey, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not in the business of counseling or cajoling or trying to make you feel good about yourself. I'm here to be objective. Right. Yeah, I'm here to be objective, and I'm here to give it to you as it is. You see, going down this path for you is not going to work. Because for me, I have people that still see me till this day, and they say things like, I can't imagine you didn't play professionally. Why didn't you take it a step further? Why? I mean, obviously they didn't know about my injury, so they just saw me playing in school, the kind of determination that I had, mental toughness, all of those things. So till today, I mean, my injury was 9 years ago. So till today, they still ask me those questions. And that was because the talent was there. But for the guys who don't have an option and they just started playing whatever sport it was from a young age, and the talent is not there, look, I'm always quick to tell them, hey, look, I'm sorry, but this might not work out. You need to equip yourself in other ways so that you can still make progress in life. So I get your point.
Yes. I find it to be quite an interesting dynamic, man, because over here, it's like we grow up playing multiple sports to become a better athlete. And then normally about once you get to high school, or what would be like maybe 10th or 11th grade, then you'll decide to just do one, or about at age 15 or 16. And then we just focus on one sport. You do have those rare phenomenons that can go to the university level here and play two sports.
Yeah.
But that's rare. So you're putting in a lot of work from the age of 5, 6, or 7 on into like your late teens, and for some of us are early 20s.
Yeah.
Which if it all ends at 22 years old, then you have to have a transition plan. And it has to go semi-smooth. And you would have been having those conversations with someone prior that had been through that experience, or walked through what we call that field of landmines, because you know where they all are, and you can help somebody get to the other side.
Exactly. You see, what even makes it worse is that in Nigeria here, the percentage of athletes, like professional athletes, that went to school, I think the last time a study was done, I think it was probably about 5% or something. So if you see any Nigerian athlete who is a professional in their sport, there is a higher chance that they did not go to school. So maybe they went to primary school or something. But when you're talking about high school, when you're talking about college, university, getting a degree, they just don't have it, because the system doesn't allow them to do that. So you hear about all those people that eventually make it. So we see them on TV, we see them at the Olympics. But what you don't hear is the others that fell by the wayside and don't have anything they're doing now. So obviously if they're 25, 26, it's too embarrassing for them to go back to school. or they don't even have the patience, to sit in a class and learn something because they feel like, look, I'm past this level. And that's when they now try to start hustling, try to start putting things together, no direction. They don't have anything specific they're focusing on. And it's a real problem because they've not been equipped with the tools that they need in order to move forward. There was a time I sent an email to my email list, saying some of the things that young athletes needed to do in order to even make progress in their careers in football. And I got an interesting email back from a guy who said, if those are the things that I need to do, then I don't think I want to play sports anymore. And I replied him and I said, that is actually good for you because you don't want to waste 5-6 years of your life trying, not putting in the effort that you should in the right way, and then only finding out that, hey, look, I only wasted my time. What do I do now?
I was going to ask you, Tola. So the kids that maybe they sustain an injury or once they retire, even if they have to retire early, and then the ones that aren't set with the innate ability to go back to school or to try to go to school to better themselves, what does it look like for that group socially or what does it look like for that demographic socially? What are they transitioning into or what are they doing?
Yeah, that's part of the problem. So they don't translate into anything. So what they then do is that they try to, for the ones that maybe they played to a certain level, what they then do is that they try to cling on to that life, of being a former whatever player. So they always have that former attached to their name. So there's nothing they're doing currently, but they always need to have that attachment to what they were doing before so that it gives them some form of relevance. Now, that is even for the ones that were able to do it to a certain point. For the ones that weren't able to do it to a certain point, those guys just sink into depression. And those are the guys that you then see them with drug-related issues. They have alcohol issues, medical issues, because they can't come out and say what their problem is without people laughing at them or without feeling like people are going to laugh at them that, hey, look at this guy, he thought he could be the next best thing, wasted all his time, didn't amount to anything, more or less like a wasted talent. So those guys usually end up just going down the drain. You don't hear from them, you don't see them, you don't hear anything whatsoever as it relates to them. All you hear is maybe when there's a major problem. So they end up with some alcohol-related issue or they get involved with the police or something like that. But for the ones that played to a certain point, whatever point it was, they always have to attach that format to themselves. Now, one opportunity that they've been getting now is punditry, so sports punditry, so commentary and all of that. But even that, you're going to see that they are not good at it. So they don't have good command of English, for example, to be even able to, put the sentences together. Because I also have a radio show that I do on radio where we talk about, soccer events, things that are going on in sport. And you're going to see these guys who, they just is sad, but they just can't construct sentences, so the grammatical errors in what they're doing. So once they get that first opportunity, they never get it again because it's not putting the show in good light. Or the guys that are watching are going to be criticizing and saying, why do you have someone on who can't speak English? Why do you have someone on who doesn't make sense with what he's saying? So when they even get the opportunity, it almost goes by the wayside. The only ones that survive that are the ones that have some form of educational background or the ones that have tried to improve themselves after they got injured, after they stopped playing, whichever one it is. But for the ones that don't, it's usually a problem.
Yeah, so it's like you're saying either way, you're going to have a plan for education or a plan for self-improvement, but they're really one and the same. Whether you educate yourself, through the university system or find a teacher or start to do your own research and, work on your language, work on your vocabulary, work on what it would be like speaking in front of a camera if you were speaking for an organization. That makes a lot of sense because if you can speak properly, you're helping the show with its ratings due to, your popularity. I also hear you, expressing that it's the retired athlete that holds on to the former professional, like it's a title, like a title, and holding on to that. And at the end of the day, it's funny you mentioned some of these things because it's all imaginary. You played the sport if you're really putting in the work to get to the next level or improving yourself, you're not concerned with what other people think, so
Exactly.
it sounds like on that level, being here in the US in Portland, Oregon, and you being in Nigeria, there are some similar social dynamics on how you're made to feel, which could be imaginary. You know what I mean? Because we start thinking or worrying about what other people think, where at the end of the day, you have to punt them like a football and not worry about other people, and just really focus on yourself, because if that's the case, they weren't your friends anyway.
True. And I also, that's another thing that I also try to advise and, try to guide young athletes that, look, the team that you surround yourself with, quote and unquote, or the people that you surround yourself with are key. Because we have this, what would I call it now? We have this bandwagon thing here, and I'm sure you have it as well. So you're going to see a guy, like, for example, when I was in high school, I played basketball. I played soccer, I played table tennis, which is ping pong, and then I ran track as well. So now I'm about 5'7". So obviously, I'm just imagining myself, wanting to continue playing basketball, for example, and, everyone around me telling me how good I was, how, I'm going to make it. But the average height of a basketball player who is going to make it is at least 5'11". So if you don't have people who are going to tell you that, hey, look, this might not be your track, because first and foremost, you don't have the physical attributes to actually do it, and you don't fall into the criteria of the athletes that would make it in that field. Many of them don't have people that tell them that. So they have people that just sing their praises and feed them with all these things. When it comes to the critical time where they now need their support because things are not turning out the way it should, all of those people disappear. So the guy is now left on his own to fend for himself, not knowing where to go next.
Yeah, and that's where the guide comes in, as far as playing like multiple sports. And then you have somebody that's objective that says, you know what, you're 5'7", you might be more suited for soccer because basketball is a height dominated sport. Sure. Or we might go the track and field route, or we might play rugby, or it might be lacrosse, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? And one thing I can say from my studies, the former Russians in the Eastern Bloc, they were really good about that as far as understanding a young athlete's personality type, their disposition, their height and their body weight, as far as channeling them to the right sport to where they could make the most of it or get the furthest front, get the most out of it, and then benefit from it afterwards. So for you, if you would have kept playing basketball, you might have had the same kind of ending.
Exactly.
So, when you're short, obviously we'd have been a point guard, and then you would have to be a shooting point guard, where you can make buckets, make 9 out of 10 threes in competition, or have a 40-inch vertical or a 45-inch vertical where you're dunking, like some of the shorter guys in the US in the past. So I think it's brilliant what you're doing over there. And like anything, you got to love it because it's always a battle. And what I tell one of my friends is like, this is good when we stumble on to new information or new problems, but because it gives us an opportunity to help people and talk about things that people can't see.
Oh, yes, of course. And, it's just like over here, over there in the US, you have this kind of like breakdown where there's so many sports psychologists, that are, trying to help young athletes with these things, even if they don't know that they have the problem yet. You see, over here, it's less. I can count on one finger, for example, the psychologists here that are specialized with helping young athletes. So I'm not saying the guys that are attached to the national teams. So just like we have the national soccer team, we have the national basketball team, or we have the national teams that are going to be going to the Olympics. Now, there's always a sports psychologist that are attached to them, but that person is at such a high level that they're not going to be focused, or they're not focused on the younger athletes, the guys that are 16, 15, 19, that are just at the cusp of having the required mental attitude, to prepare them for what is next. So we don't even have that at all. So anytime I'm talking to young athletes and I'm trying to help them, it's always like I'm speaking Greek for like the first 15 minutes or thereabout, because all they want to do is they just want to play. So they play soccer, they want to kick something. They're playing basketball, they want to throw something, or they want to run. And I'm like, hey, look, the physical aspect is there, yes, but the mental aspect is just as key. Understanding those mental things, the mental toughness, the mindset that you need to have in order to play well, that's another disadvantage that we have, which is why I started the podcast and I said, hey, look, whatever I can do to give back and make young athletes more aware of what is going on so that they don't just get to the end and realize that, oh, look, wow, I just wasted my time all this while. That is the specific focus. And that's why I'm so happy with the work that you do as well. And even me listening to your message was like, oh, wow, this is great. This is good stuff. This is more of what we need over on this side so that more young athletes are aware. They know that, hey, look, man, there's more to just kicking and just throwing things. There are other things that I need to focus on.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're listening to Adetola Ogunlewe. Dr. Adetola, I want to say, y'all, Tola Ogunlewe, he has a background in sports, playing at a high level, and then he's also a practicing attorney. Now, Coach, tell us about your practice and what it is that you do and how you got into sports law.
Well, basically, the way that, just like I said a little earlier, I'd always wanted to play sports, but one of the conditions that I had in order to fully go down that route was to go to school. So that was a non-negotiable part of it for my parents. So they said, look, you go to school. Now, another thing that I'll make funny to you is that I was a full science student coming out of high school. So all your physics, biology, chemistry, like the full science subjects were what I did. But when it got to the point of deciding what to do next, I decided to choose the faster option, and law came about. So it wasn't like, oh, I like law, or that was what I was more passionate about. It was what could get me to the end quicker, and it was law. So what could get me to the end quicker, and it was law. So I took it, I excelled at it, and just like I said, just as I was about to graduate, 2 months before my graduation. And the funny thing was my injury was a freak injury. I didn't need to play that game. If I was more aware, if I knew more of what was at stake, I wouldn't have taken the risk that I took at the time. So it was just a normal kickabout. I was playing with these guys who they didn't have anything they were looking forward to. They were just having a kickabout, and this guy clatters into me completely, gets me out of the game. And that was how I got the injury. And of course, the attention then shifted to law. And I said, hey, look, I could be a normal lawyer, but then that would take me away from sports. And I still wanted to be connected to sports. So I said, hey, look, I need to be connected. Chose the sports law route, so helping young athletes with agents, and over here as well, we have so many fraudulent agents. I can't tell you, how bad it is in the system of agents trying to take advantage of the younger athletes and all of that. So we try to help them do that, look into their contracts and show that they are properly guided physically, mentally, and on the legal side.
I really appreciate that. So you have your own agency, or are you a part of another agency there that represents athletes?
No, I have my own agency, my own sports management.
Now, what I wanted to ask you, Tola, as we get into the fourth quarter, tell us about training facilities. We have these fancy facilities here in the U.S. I've heard other people talk about what the facilities are like in Jamaica, as far as like the sprint team, like tennis places that might be over in Russia or China or Japan. And, y'all are known for, the soccer and the running. What are the physical training environments like? Or do you have like a rehab clinic like we have over here with physical therapists, physiotherapists, licensed massage therapists, chiropractors, acupuncturists? What is that like for recovery, being like a Nigerian or an African athlete, on that side of the water?
This is another story. I feel like I'm telling so many stories today. Now, you see, when I tore my ACL and I got injured, it would interest you to know that there was no doctor in Nigeria at the time who actually knew what it was and how to get me better. It will surprise you. It will surprise you to know that. So when I got injured, when I went to the hospital and I said, hey, look, I have this niggling injury. Some guy clattered into me. It was really bad. I almost passed out. It's swollen. What do I do? So the first thing that they would have said, which was what I got to know later, was, okay, rest the knee for a few days, let the swelling go down, Then we can do an MRI to see what exactly is going in there. What I was asked to do was to do an X-ray. So obviously an X-ray only shows you if any bone is broken. It doesn't show you the ligaments, doesn't show you the tendons, doesn't show you all of those things. So in terms of the rehabilitation stuff, now it's better. When I go back from London from my surgery and I was looking for where to rehabilitate, there was only one physio in Nigeria who had the experience with ACL reconstruction surgeries. And that was the person that I had to go to and say, hey, look, I'm just coming out of ACL surgery. Can I work with you? Can you help me rehabilitate? If I had the injury or if I had the surgery 6 months earlier, I would have been on my own because I would not have been able to rehabilitate in Nigeria. I would have had to rehabilitate abroad because there was just no one in Nigeria that could do that stuff. But it's much better now. You have more guys getting involved in the sports field and many of all these things because it's clear that there's a deficiency in that area because we need more people to actually help out with things that are. So whilst you guys have all of those facilities, big stuff, we have little of it. So if you're a young athlete here over this side of the pond, you always pray that you don't get injured because if you get injured, you are not sure that you're going to get someone, that can help you recover.
Right. So what is it like if you're a soccer player and you want to get a little bit bigger, stronger so you can run faster? Where does that kid go or that young person go to get strength training or to do barbell or kettlebell work?
No, what they tell you, probably you just go to the gym. You go to a general gym, you talk to the person who owns the gym or who is a coach in the gym, and then that person tells you, okay, you probably need to eat more food, or they come up with a plan for you. But in terms of having like specific people to work with in terms of what they're doing, what they're trying to achieve, it's not so pronounced now in Nigeria. But there are people that are working in that field now to help young athletes realize that, hey, look, okay, just like you said, this is the body composition that you must have. These are the things that you must focus on. These are the specific trainings that you must go through in order to. The only people that get that are people that get to train with the national teams. But if you're a young athlete, if you're 15, 16, you're mostly left to fend for yourself in terms of coming up with what you have to do in order to make progress.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're that's another hole that you could help fulfill as far as maybe bringing parties together down the line as far as the athlete and the proper coach to get bigger, faster, stronger for soccer. Because I've met kids over here that's been playing soccer all of their life and they know the rules. They have all the technical things down, but they might be a little slight, on the physical side. Maybe they're not as tall as some of the other kids, or they don't have the same muscle mass. And over here, soccer it's a lifestyle where you have your high school team, you have your club team, and you have select teams. So they pretty much play year round, and it doesn't warrant enough room for strength training or having recovery. And that's one of the things that we would say in the United States is an issue, and it's even like that for our younger basketball athletes because it takes up so much of their time. They're playing on their high school team, and then soon as high school done, they play what's called AAU basketball. So it can be quite tough, especially if you get an injury, and it's pressure. You have travel teams. They go to New York, they go to Texas, they go to Chicago. So kids get sold on, like we discussed before, a dream, but they don't think about getting injured or hurt.
Yeah.
And then recovering from the injury. So before we close out, Adetola, what else would you like to say to my audience, and how can they find you? Is there a website where they can find you at?
It's athletemaestro.com. So that's maestro, maestro. So becoming a master in the craft, so to speak. That's where they can find me. I'm Tola Ogunlewe on all social media platforms, and that's where I try to give back and just try to help young athletes understand, so many of all this, there are inconsequential things that you might neglect or that you might forget, but there are things that you are going to find out the hard way. And when you find that out, it's usually painful, it's usually difficult.
Sports parents, If you're looking for a program to help develop your student athlete, check out my course, The Edge, showing and helping the student athlete how to take effective action, developing discipline, showing them how to develop a growth mindset and expand their mind in the form of reflective thinking. This is the place you want to be. This is course. I want you to work through this course with your student athlete. It's not for them to go at it alone. This is a gap. This is a way to bridge the gap between the student athlete and sports parent and the student athlete and the coach. Check out my course, The Edge, at sportsmastery.thinkific.com. I'll also have a link in the show notes. And now, back to the show.